Thanks, Ginger, for the introduction. It's my great honor to be here, sort of to be the only industry speaker at this session. And we had a very distinguished list of speakers, and I learned a lot, because you don't see, like macro charts that often in a corporate setup. But let me try to bring some of my perspective on globalization and really the driving force of technology behind this. Because we talk about cycles, we talk about the divergence and the relative, like position of different economies in the world. But I think technology is always an important secular trend, right? And especially as we've seen in the past 2 years or so, that AI is really taking the center stage when we think about technology nowadays. So what I want to share with you in this brief 20 minutes is really some of our on-the-ground experience with applying AI to global commerce. Because I come from Alibaba International, which is essentially the collection of all the Alibaba e-commerce business out of China. Right? So we actually do a lot of cross-border e-commerce. We also do trading, B2B trading, and we operate in many different markets. We operate in Southeast Asia, we operate in Europe, in both emerging and developed Europe, or in the Middle East, and also North and South America. So, and in this past 1 year or so, we started to really apply AI to global commerce. And now I actually had this sort of newly created unit of AI initiative within Alibaba International. And we are very excited by what we see in this past 1.5 years. Basically, we see there's a lot of potential for AI to bring down the barrier of global trade, and especially empower small and micro-sized enterprises to really develop their competitiveness globally. Okay, so so without further ado, let me show you a little bit of our kind of like a very sort of like overview, really an overview of the Alibaba International Digital Commerce Group's business. So we operate in more than 190 countries, which is pretty much most of the world, and the annual active buyer is more than 300 million consumers. Okay, so we actually operate a very diverse set of platforms in different parts of the world. For example, in the once again, the slides is not, I mean, not everything's coming up on the slides, but what you have on the other on the right side of the slide is the number of merchants, okay, or the number of enterprises we support on our platforms. So so everything put together, we have more than 1 million sellers who operate on our platform. A lot of them actually hail from the developing markets, right? So we got more than 1 million merchants in Southeast Asia. We actually have quite a few. We have like more than 300K of merchants in China, and more than like 600,000 sellers in South Asia. Okay, so Daraz is one. So AliExpress is our cross-border e-commerce platform. Lazada is our Southeast Asia platform. Daraz operates in South Asia, in Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Trendyol operates from Turkey. Right? So actually, most of our merchants come from emerging markets. And if you look at the number here, you'll probably have already guessed that many of these merchants are really small in size. Right? So they could be like one-person shop, or actually two-people shop, or like just or it's 5 or 6 people. Right? So they'll be operating this online e-commerce store on the internet, but they'll be selling across the world. Right? So a lot of the one-man shop here really sell to many different markets. Right? A typical seller in Trendyol in Turkey sell not just to Turkey, but also to Europe, to France and Germany, but and more recently, they can also sell to the Middle East. So I think that's kind of the charm of the internet, right? So we've been enabling all these small players who are sitting in Turkey, or sitting in the Philippines, sitting in China, to develop their business globally. Okay, so that's kind of like like what we do, like essentially. But if you look at these small and micro-sized enterprises, they actually face a lot of challenges when they sell globally, right? So the internet sort of enabled them to develop a global reach, but it's actually not easy for them to actually develop a successful business. So I identify 4 major challenges for these small and micro enterprises when they try to operate globally. So the first one, like once again, some of the structures are lost here, but the first major challenge is really the language and culture barrier, right? Because if you look at a typical seller in China or in Turkey, when they try to sell to, for example, France, the language barrier can be a major hurdle, right? They don't even know how to describe their product, right? They don't even know how to communicate to the buyers, right? They could have a very good product from a quality and price point of view, but it's very difficult for them to be culturally apprehensive, apprehensive, right? And really to express their strong point in their local language, right? So if you think about content localization, if you think about gaining local consumer insights, it's actually not trivial, right? And the second major challenge is a shortage of talent. Right? If you think about a lot of the small and the mediums, or actually really the micro-sized enterprises, it's very hard for them to get a good enough designer to design their online shop. It's very hard for them to get a really good customer service rep to actually service the consumers, right? So a lot of times, what we see is that the smaller the size of a firm, the more difficult it is for them to recruit good people, right? So they're not on a leveling playing field when they compete to their bigger counterparts, right, or competitors. So, and the third major challenge is really the cost of doing an online business. So if you observe the global tech industry, we see an increasing concentration of traffic in the recent years. If you look at any micro enterprise who try to sell to the US, you have to go through Facebook, right? You have to go through Google, right? And these mega platforms are super efficient in terms of their algorithm, in terms of their data science. So increasingly, it becomes more and more costly for a small enterprise to get traffic from online, right? A lot of the dollars are spent on those big platforms, sort of buying traffic, right? And finally, there's a compliance challenge, right? So because for really a small enterprise, once again in Mexico, in Turkey, it's actually very difficult to figure out the increasingly complex compliance and regulatory landscape everywhere in the world, right? And if you look at governments in the world, like some of our professors mentioned in the earlier session, you look at the geopolitical tension around the world, regulatory barriers are being erected everywhere, right? So it is a headache even for a big company. It is an even bigger headache for small firm, right, who try to sell on the internet. So all of these are challenges that are especially acute, right, for a tiny firm with only a few people, right? So, but I'm sort of happy to report in the past 1 year, we are trying to deliver an answer to these challenges with the help of AI, okay? So if you look at most of the challenges the companies face, and if you look at what has been really catching up in the technological space in this past 1 year, that AI, and especially large language model, is really providing answer to many of the challenges here, right? So if you think about LLM or ChatGPT, which is really fewer than 2 years old, right? It's kind of like really surprising if you think about it. Now we take it as a part of our life, but it's actually very recent, right? But for any of you who have actually used ChatGPT, you know that it's naturally multilingual, right? It speaks multiple languages. It's actually pretty subtle, nuanced, and sophisticated when it comes to cultural understanding, right? It could generate content, right, with a very simple prompt, right? You get the content you need, and it is able to do marketing pretty well, right? So what we have been doing in this past 1.5 years is to develop a complete AI solution for e-commerce, which we provide to these small and medium-sized enterprises for free to help them to deal with different aspects of their operational challenge when they engage in global commerce. Okay, so just to give you a little bit of like an overview of the of what we have achieved, right? And then I'll come to more examples on what exactly we do with generative AI for these small merchants on our platform. So right now we have about 500,000 merchants who have adopted our AI product, and each day the AI infrastructure serves more than 15 million API calls a day, right? So each API call, as I will explain later, you can consider that to be one instance where the AI is helping the merchants to complete a particular task, right? So that particular task could be a marketing message, could be a product listing, could be a customer service session, or it could be compliance task automation, okay? And so as we speak, more than 100 million product listings has been adapted and optimized with the help of generative AI, okay? And that adaptation is into multiple languages, right? So for any of our sellers in Turkey, when they upload a product listing in read in a Turkish language, the AI will just come about and readapt it into French, into German, and also into Arabic as we speak, right? And that same product listing could be duplicated to different markets, and the way the marketing is done is in consideration of the local consumer preference and culture biases, okay? And we have about 40 use cases in marketing, across marketing, customer service, listing adaptation, design, compliance, and process automation. I'll give some examples later on. And we're actually very happy to see that the small and micro merchants are disproportionately benefiting from this AI infrastructure, because the idea is that a lot of the small and micro merchants don't have a good team or a strong team of human employees to start with. And when you provide them with the AI employees, so to speak, they are actually experiencing a lot of lift or enhancement in terms of the click-through rate of their product listing, in terms of the purchase conversion their product is able to achieve, and also consumer satisfaction and also cost reduction. So across the 40 use cases, we're actually doing pretty rigorous A/B testing nowadays, and we're actually seeing from 1% to up to 30% lift in either click-through rate or conversion or consumer satisfaction, right? So a single digit increase may not seem much, but if you add everything together across all the scenarios, we're actually creating significant monetary value for the small merchants on our platform. Okay, so let me just give you a few examples. Okay, so you have to guess what's going on here, right? I mean, it looks like, okay, it's a messy slide, but given the color, the coloration here, so I'll just talk you through this. Okay, so this is actually a very simple application that we are applying, but we are sort of like implementing on a large scale. It's basically that for a lot of merchants, how to generate a beautifully designed product listing is really the very first step towards successful e-commerce operation, right? So you've all bought from Amazon, you bought from probably from Taobao in China, also globally, okay? A product listing is really the initial touch point between the consumer and the product online, okay? But it is actually not that trivial to craft a good product listing, because you have to express what you are selling to your consumers with 1 or 2 sentences. Right? That's the title of your listing. You have to get good photos for them to know the look and feel of your product. You have to really summarize the main selling points that makes your product different from all the other options on the market, right? And just think about the challenge a small enterprise is gonna face if you want to do this in 18 different languages, because I want to sell across the globe, right? So the challenge really can be massive here. So now what we do here is that we ask the consumer, we ask the merchants to give us one listing, which is kind of example in his native language, and we'll do the adaptation automatically, right? The adaptation is not just in terms of the text, but also in the image, right? The images could be translated, and most of the, and if you're selling a fashion products, the models, right, can be adapted into different ethnicity depending on what is your target market. So this is actually lifting the conversion rate pretty significantly, okay? And this is actually a second example where we are using AI to adapt marketing content for the small merchants. And the basic idea is that when you try to advertise on Google and Facebook, how effective is your advertising creative really governs your ROI, right? Your return on investment. Say if I want to spend $10 on Google and Facebook to attract the traffic, if my ad creative that doesn't look good, that $10 can be wasted in no time with 0 conversion for my online shop, right? But if I get a good piece of ad creative, the ROI can be significantly boosted. So long story short, we use AI to actually craft this ad content creative for our merchants with the right selling points and choosing the right target audience, right? And this is increasing the efficiency by 3%. So 3% may not seem much, but if you think about how much advertising dollars are spent each year online, it's actually a pretty significant amount of money, okay? So this is one of our example of generating virtual, like model photo shots, right, for the merchants. And like affording a model, more models can be expensive, right? And right now, the only thing you need to provide is this picture of your clothes, and we'll put it on a virtual model automatically, keeping the authenticity of the look and feel of the clothing, okay? For the sake of time, I will not go through each of these examples one by one, and maybe just here with one of the kind of like interesting example I would like to spend another minute here, is that we are also using AI to help our merchants to operate in greater compliance with regulations around the world. So this is a case where the merchants have to go through a pretty fairly complicated financial compliance task with regard to the credit card organizations, right? So, I mean, without explaining the details, oftentimes our merchants face chargeback requests from the credit card organizations. And it used to be extremely difficult for them to actually win such cases. But now we use AI to digest all the emails they receive, to actually get all the evidences automatically, and to write an email and send it back to the credit card organization. And actually the win rate with AI is actually 15% higher than our best human expert. And this is actually saving our merchants like tens of millions of dollars each year. So without going, just to sum up, right, I think it has been a heck of a ride in this past 1 year, you building AI for global e-commerce merchants. And I'm actually extremely happy to report that this experience has made me an optimist in the potential of generative AI, right? Despite all the, like divergence and all these, like issues we're facing nowadays, I think technology provides an answer that lowers the barrier of globalization, that empowers small and medium-sized enterprises, and it could become a countervailing force to a lot of the headwinds we have discussed so far. So I saw this on the media the other day. I mean, this is like last week, right? So Jay Paul actually made a comment last week in one of the ECB conference saying that, I mean, there's a sense of something big coming here, right? He was talking about generative AI, and it feels like what that will be is it will eliminate some jobs and it will create some other jobs, right? I think this has become the consensus when people look at AI nowadays. But what I want to add here is that this is not the whole picture, right? So maybe AI will eliminate some jobs, it will add some more jobs, but what is more important is that I'm a firm believer that AI will also create more startups, right? It's not just about the jobs in our current landscape of companies, but it's gonna create more companies in the first place, because it really enables, it solves the talent shortage problem. It enables one individual, with the help of AI, to run an online enterprise. It massively lowers, right, the coordination cost within an organization. It empowers lone wolf entrepreneurs down the road, right? Because I see that really kind of like on the ground in our applications, okay? So, and also, I believe that generative AI will greatly reduce market friction, right? Because if you look at the online startup world, I believe there's going to be an emergence of even more niche products and services, because we don't lack people who have ideas, right? There are a lot of people, especially from the emerging countries, who want to be entrepreneurs, who have great ideas, who might even have very good products and services that they can offer. But the barrier to start up a company is too high because of all the issues I mentioned in the first place, because of the language barrier, because of the the shortage of talent, etc. But now with the help of AI, we may lower the barrier on the operational front. I think more great ideas can come to the light, okay? So I'm also a firm believer that by reducing the market friction, we're gonna see a greater emergence of niche products and services, and this is gonna increase consumer and producer welfare across the board, okay? So that's pretty much what I have for today. And once again, very happy to be here. Looking forward to exchange more ideas.